What happened when an undercover CEO traded her office chair for a mechanic's stool and uncovered a hidden culture of deceit inside her own company? Welcome, amazing listeners. In today's story, you'll meet Amelia Tran, a bold and compassionate leader who went undercover at Lumina Auto Care to expose unethical practices and rebuild trust from the ground up. This isn't just a tale of corporate reform. It's a powerful journey of integrity, courage, and transformation. If you believe real change starts with seeing the truth up close, you won't want to miss this. Let's dive into the story that changed everything. Amelia Tran sat in her corner office overlooking the city skyline, a mug of black coffee cooling in her hand, but her focus was fixed on the digital screen in front of her. It wasn't good news. Dozens of customer complaints had flooded the feedback portal over the past few weeks, each one more disheartening than the last. One customer claimed she was charged $800.00 for a fuel injection cleaning she never approved. Another alleged that her husband was pushed into replacing a perfectly functional transmission. These weren't just outliers, they painted a disturbing pattern. Amelia's heart sank. Lumina Auto Care had once been a beacon of trust in the auto repair industry. She'd built the company from the ground up, inspired by her late father's small-town garage, where customer service mattered more than the bill. Fix it right, or don't fix it at all, he used to say, a motto that had shaped her vision. But now, a decade after founding Lumina, she feared that vision had slipped through her fingers. The reports weren't limited to just one shop. Complaints came from multiple locations involving different technicians and managers. That's what chilled Amelia the most. This wasn't about one bad apple. It suggested a systemic rot. She'd worked too hard and stood for too much to let her company slide into a money-hungry machine at the cost of its core values. Her executive team had brushed off the complaints as anomalies or difficult customers. But Amelia knew better. Patterns didn't lie. She remembered one email from a longtime customer who said, "I used to trust you with my car and my daughters. Now, I don't even trust you with an oil change." That stung. Late that night, after her staff had gone home, Amelia sat alone in her office and opened a spreadsheet. She began mapping each complaint by location, date, employee, and type of service. A knot tightened in her chest as connections began to emerge. It wasn't just about dishonest technicians, it was about how the entire system was rewarding them. Quotas, upsell incentives, commission-based bonuses. Amelia realized that the very structures meant to boost performance might be encouraging fraud. Determined to get the truth from the inside, she made a bold decision, one that no executive manual would advise. She would go undercover as a new junior mechanic in one of the worst-rated shops. Only then could she truly see the day-to-day operations and uncover whether her fears were justified. If Lumina Auto Care had lost its way, she was ready to fight for its soul. Disguised beneath grease-streaked coveralls and a borrowed name tag that read Mia, Amelia Tran stepped into the buzzing chaos of Lumina Auto Care's East Denver branch. The transition from CEO to rookie mechanic was jarring. The scent of oil and burnt rubber filled the air, engines revved in the bays, and customers waited impatiently in the lobby. No one suspected that the petite woman quietly observing from the corner once ran board meetings in tailored suits. Here, she was just another trainee. No special treatment, no desk, no authority. Assigned to shadow a senior technician named Ethan Miles, Amelia quickly realized she'd landed exactly where she needed to be. Ethan, a man of few words and practiced motions, welcomed her with a grunt and a wave toward a Honda Civic with its hood popped. "Let's get to work," he said. From the get-go, Amelia watched closely not just what Ethan did, but what he said to customers, how he logged parts, and how service recommendations were delivered. The red flags appeared almost immediately. A customer with a worn-out wiper blade was told she needed a full blade motor replacement. $300.00 instead of a $15.00 fix. Another man was pressured into purchasing a brake flush package he clearly didn't understand. Amelia noticed a pattern. Customers who hesitated or asked too many questions were brushed off or subtly guilted into compliance. Ethan, like others, operated with the casual confidence of someone who had done this 100 times and never faced consequences. More alarming were the private conversations between staff during breaks. In the cramped, windowless break room, Amelia overheard technicians joking about how many extras they'd sold that day. One even laughed. "Sold a belt replacement on a car that didn't even have that kind of belt," the others snickered. Amelia's stomach turned. Trying to stay in character, she nodded along and asked harmless questions, pretending to be a curious new hire. Every detail she picked up confirmed what the complaints had warned. This wasn't isolated behavior. It was baked into the culture. More than once, she noticed employees checking a digital dashboard showing their upsell percentages, a leaderboard of sorts, where top performers earned bonuses, perks, or praise from the manager. No one celebrated honest diagnostics, just high invoices. Amelia kept her emotions in check, quietly documenting everything she saw in a private log on her phone during bathroom breaks. Behind her protective eyewear and mechanic's gloves, she was no longer the company's leader. She was a witness, a mole embedded in a machine that had gone off course. The more she saw, the more determined she became to rip the system apart from the inside. By the end of her first week, Amelia had shed any lingering doubt. Lumina Auto Care wasn't just experiencing a few bad practices. It was running on a culture of pressure. Each morning, the team at the East Denver branch gathered near the service desk, where shop manager Javier Cruz delivered his daily pep talk. Though it sounded more like a scoreboard breakdown. "We missed our upsell targets yesterday," he barked. "If you're not pushing premium packages, you're not pulling your weight." His eyes lingered on certain mechanics before landing on Amelia, whom he still believed to be Mia, the shy new apprentice. What struck Amelia wasn't just the tone. It was how normal this all felt to the crew. The expectation to upsell wasn't spoken like a strategy, it was treated like a moral obligation. The underlying message was clear. Your job depends on convincing customers to spend more, whether they need to or not. During the rush hours, Amelia witnessed how this pressure translated into manipulation. One customer came in with a simple alignment request, but left with a full steering system overhaul. Nearly $1,500, 0 cents. Amelia had seen the car, it barely needed a tire rotation. Another man, visibly unsure about the jargon thrown at him, nodded nervously as a technician convinced him to purchase engine additives and filters that made no real difference. Watching these exchanges unfold, Amelia noticed the change in her coworkers' behavior. Their voices grew more authoritative, more confident, almost scripted, whenever a customer hesitated. They leaned into fear and uncertainty, selling what-if scenarios like insurance policies. It was subtle psychological warfare, and the customers almost always gave in. Behind closed doors, the pressure was palpable. Amelia listened in as technicians vented to one another, trading stories of customers they closed like trophies. One even jokes, "If you can't sell a transmission flush to a soccer mom, you're in the wrong line of work." Another added, "Upsell her out, you know the drill." But these weren't just offhand remarks, they were coping mechanisms. In private, some mechanics revealed how stressful it was to maintain their jobs under these metrics. "We're not fixing cars anymore," one admitted to Amelia. "We're just playing commission roulette." The system rewarded deception and punished transparency. One tech quietly told Amelia that he'd received a written warning after choosing not to charge a college student for a service she didn't need. "Nice guys finish broke," he said with a shrug. Amelia couldn't shake the feeling that her company had morphed into something she no longer recognized. Sales goals had become shackles. Integrity, once the bedrock of Lumina's identity, was now treated as a liability. And the deeper she went, the more she realized it was time to dismantle the very system she had once helped build. It was during a rainy Wednesday lunch break that Amelia found her first genuine ally in the shop, Nadia Patel, a soft-spoken junior mechanic with calloused hands and cautious eyes. They sat on overturned crates behind the garage, out of view from management. As they picked at vending machine snacks, Nadia broke the silence. "You don't seem like the others," she said. Amelia hesitated, careful not to reveal too much, but that was all Nadia needed. What followed was a quiet outpouring of frustration, the kind that had been bottled up for too long. "I've been written up twice," she confessed. Once for telling a customer their brakes didn't need replacing, another time for skipping an unnecessary diagnostic fee. "I wasn't trying to be a hero, I just told the truth." That conversation marked the beginning of a pattern. Over the next few days, Amelia discovered that beneath the oily surface of deception, there were still honest voices fighting to breathe. She noticed that the techs who kept their heads down during upsell meetings, the ones who lingered on jobs a little longer to make sure things were done right, they were often the ones management kept at arm's length. These workers weren't celebrated, they were silenced. They received fewer high-ticket jobs, fewer incentives, and constant reminders to stick to the system. Amelia quietly began documenting these instances, adding names, dates, and quotes to her growing personal report. The more she listened, the more she understood how deep the rot went, but also how much good still lingered. A mechanic named Darnell admitted he sometimes faked extra charges just to hit his quota, but hated himself for it. Another woman, Carla, whispered that she wanted to quit but couldn't afford to quit school. Her daughter needed school supplies and braces. Amelia's heart broke hearing how the very people she'd hoped to empower were now trapped in a system that made them choose between survival and honesty. What shocked her most wasn't the dishonesty, it was how normalized it had become. One day, while helping with an oil change, Nadia quietly passed Amelia a folded slip of paper. Inside was a printed copy of a customer survey, one that praised Nadia for being the first mechanic who didn't try to scam me. At the bottom, in pen, Nadia had written, "They buried this, never saw the light of day." That single note solidified Amelia's resolve. The fight wasn't just about customers anymore. It was about restoring dignity to the workers who still believed in doing the right thing. If she was going to save Lumina Auto Care, she'd have to amplify these hidden voices and turn their quiet resistance into a movement. Amelia knew it was time to step out of the shadows. Observing the problem wasn't enough. She needed to confront it. But first, she wanted one last piece of proof. One morning, she returned to the East Denver shop, not as Mia the apprentice, but as a regular customer. With her hair tucked under a baseball cap and a nervous expression she'd practiced in the mirror, she carried in her personal vehicle, a sedan with a mild rattling sound caused by a loose heat shield, a $25.00 fix at most. She signed the intake sheet and took a seat in the waiting room, blending in with the other customers, scrolling on their phones or nervously glancing at the repair bays. Her heart raced as the minutes ticked by. Eventually, a technician she'd worked alongside approached with a clipboard and a confident stride. He gave her car a once-over before launching into a pitch that made her stomach turn. "You've got some serious underbody damage," he said. "It's going to need a full exhaust replacement and suspension alignment. Could be a safety issue." The quote he handed her totaled over $1,200.00. Amelia kept her face neutral, feigning confusion and concern. She asked careful questions, watched as he dodged them, and listened as he leaned into scare tactics, warning her of potential system failures and long-term engine damage. It was a performance she had seen too many times, only now it was happening to her. This moment crystallized everything she had feared. It was no longer hearsay. She now had first-hand experience, a printed quote, and thanks to a discreet voice recorder in her pocket, audio of the entire interaction. It was the final confirmation that Lumina Auto Care had drifted far from its roots. Later that evening in her private office, Amelia laid out her notes, the recordings, and a binder full of evidence she had compiled during her weeks in disguise. The anger, heartbreak, and determination coalesced into a clear purpose. She would no longer be a passive witness. The time had come to reveal the truth and dismantle the machinery of greed that had overtaken her company. With a deep breath, Amelia drafted the invite for a mandatory company-wide meeting. The subject line was simple but powerful. It's time to talk. She knew that the next steps would define her legacy, not just as a founder, but as a leader willing to fight for what was right. The mask was coming off. The truth was coming out. The atmosphere in Lumina Auto Care's main conference hall was thick with tension. Employees from across the region filled the rows, technicians, managers, admin staff, all buzzing with speculation about the sudden, mandatory meeting called by the CEO herself. Some thought it was another performance review rollout. Others suspected layoffs. None were prepared for what was about to unfold. Amelia Tran stepped onto the stage, not in a suit, but in the same coveralls she had worn during her undercover weeks. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as recognition slowly dawned on the East Denver staff. Mia, the quiet apprentice, was Amelia all along. She stood in front of a projector screen, her posture firm, voice unwavering. "You know me as your CEO," she began, "but for the last several weeks, you've also known me as your coworker, and what I saw shook me." She laid out everything: the dishonest upselling, the manipulation of vulnerable customers, the skewed incentive systems, the punishment of honest workers. Her words weren't accusatory, but honest, raw, and deeply personal. "This company was built on trust. We promised our customers transparency. Somewhere along the way, we lost that." Amelia presented audio recordings and quotes from real customer interactions, including the repair estimate given to her during her undercover visit. The crowd fell silent. Some shifted uncomfortably, others bowed their heads. Then came the testimonials. Amelia invited a few employees, including Nadia Patel, to speak about their experiences. With a tremor in her voice, Nadia recounted the reprimands she received for being honest, and how she nearly quit the job she once loved. Another technician shared how pressure to meet quotas had caused him constant anxiety. Their stories painted a picture that was difficult to deny. Lumini's culture had become toxic. But Amelia wasn't there to cast blame. She was there to ignite change. "This ends today," she declared. She announced a sweeping overhaul of company policies, the removal of upsell-based bonuses, a new employee evaluation system focused on customer satisfaction, and the launch of an anonymous ethics reporting platform. Honest work would now be rewarded, not punished. Leadership would undergo retraining. "Those who've contributed to this culture will be held accountable," she stated plainly. "But those who fought to do the right thing, you will be the ones who help rebuild us." As the meeting closed, a quiet buzz replaced the earlier tension. Employees exchanged glances, not of fear, but of cautious optimism. For the first time in a long while, many felt seen. Amelia stepped off the stage not just as a CEO, but as someone who had walked in their shoes and chosen to lead from the ground up. The real work of healing had begun. The morning after the company meeting, Lumina Auto Care was no longer the same. The ripple effects of Amelia Tran's revelation began to sweep through every branch, starting with East Denver. No longer in disguise, Amelia walked through the garage in her CEO badge and coveralls, this time met not with confusion, but with cautious nods, and the occasional quiet thank you. Change was in motion, and Amelia wasted no time in making it real. She began by launching a full audit of employee performance histories, not just by sales numbers, but by customer satisfaction, complaint rates, and internal feedback. Those who had engaged in deliberate deception faced tough conversations. Some were suspended pending review. A few were let go entirely, including the technician who had tried to upsell her during her undercover visit. It wasn't about vengeance. It was about accountability. But Amelia knew reform wasn't just about rooting out the bad. It was about uplifting the good. Technicians like Nadia were promoted into leadership positions and tasked with shaping the future culture of their shops. New training modules were introduced, focused on ethical service, diagnostic transparency, and emotional intelligence in customer interactions. Amelia brought in outside ethics consultants to work with managers on rebuilding trust from the inside out. Daily quotas were replaced with quality benchmarks, including peer reviews and customer follow-up calls. Shop meetings that once centered on upselling now opened with customer success stories, spotlighting technicians who saved clients money through honest advice. A new initiative called Fix It Right was launched, a company-wide program celebrating integrity over profit. Posters bearing the slogan, "We fix what's broken, not what's working," were distributed to every location. Employees could now nominate their peers for integrity badges, monthly recognitions, with public praise, small bonuses, and most importantly, validation. The changes didn't come without pushback. Some employees were skeptical, others resistant. A few grumbled that the new system was too soft or feared they'd earn less without upsells. But over time, attitudes began to shift. Amelia made herself available, hosting open forums at different locations, answering questions, and listening to grievances with patience and humility. One of her boldest moves was launching the Lift Line, an anonymous reporting hotline that allowed employees to voice ethical concerns without fear of retaliation. Within days, tips began pouring in. Not just complaints, but also ideas for improvement. It became clear that many had simply needed a safe way to speak up. The very employees once silenced were now helping shape a new direction. As Amelia reviewed the first month's data, she saw encouraging signs. Complaint rates were down, customer satisfaction was climbing, and, perhaps most promisingly, internal morale was beginning to heal. The reform was no longer just a vision, it was becoming the new reality at Lumina AutoCare. 3 months after the company's dramatic overhaul, Lumina AutoCare was running on something stronger than just policies and metrics. It was running on trust. Amelia Tran stood at the edge of the East Denver garage, the same shop where she had first seen the cracks in her company's foundation. Now, those cracks were being filled, not with quick fixes or corporate spin, but with culture shifts that ran deep. Technicians greeted customers with genuine smiles, not rehearsed pitches. A new hire shadowed Nadia Patel, now the shop's service lead, who guided him through repairs with a calm, measured voice. "We don't oversell here. We diagnose, we solve it. That's our job." Her words echoed a sentiment that was slowly becoming second nature to the Lumina team. The transformation wasn't just internal, customer reviews reflected the change. One testimonial read, "I walked into Lumina expecting to be pressured into repairs I didn't need. I walked out informed, respected, and safe." The company's net promoter score, once in decline, had climbed significantly. Repeat customers returned with confidence. Amelia launched a new customer transparency feature in the app, live updates on diagnostics, photo verification of repair issues, and a second opinion tool for major service suggestions. It was all part of a commitment to empower, not pressure, the people who kept Lumina in business. Internally, Amelia continued nurturing open dialogue. Monthly town halls brought together technicians and executives in the same room. No hierarchy, just honest conversation. She kept the lift line active, and anonymous suggestions flowed in regularly. One mechanic proposed a customer-first checklist for every repair, now posted beside every workstation. Another recommended rotating leadership roles among floor staff to keep the sense of ownership fresh. These ideas weren't just adopted, they were celebrated. Recognition became part of the new culture. Each month, Lumina honored an integrity champion, someone who embodied transparency and customer care. Their photo was framed in every regional office alongside a quote from Amelia, "Integrity isn't just how we fix cars, it's how we fix our reputation." The award carried more than prestige. It came with paid time off, a bonus, and an invitation to join a new employee advisory board that helped shape ongoing policies. Amelia, too, had changed. No longer the distant executive scanning quarterly reports from a glass office, she rotated visits across branches each week, dressed not in suits, but in coveralls and steel-toed boots. Her hands often got dirty again, and her ears were always open. She had traded silence for listening and spreadsheets for stories. She knew there was still work to be done. Culture, like engines, needed regular maintenance. But she also knew that Lumina AutoCare had a new engine now. One powered by purpose, fueled by trust, and guided by the people who believed in doing the right thing, even when no one was watching. And that, she realized, was the kind of machine worth driving forward. The story of Amelia Tran and Lumina AutoCare teaches a powerful lesson about the importance of integrity in leadership and business. When a company strays from its core values, it's not policies or profits that restore its reputation, it's people. Amelia's decision to go undercover revealed that unethical behavior wasn't just the result of a few bad employees, but a symptom of a flawed system that rewarded dishonesty and punished transparency. By stepping into the shoes of her frontline workers, she gained first-hand insight into the pressures and moral dilemmas they faced daily. Her courage to confront those issues, not with blame, but with action, transformed the company from the inside out. This story reminds us that trust is built through accountability, and real change starts when leaders listen. By replacing fear with empathy and competition with collaboration, Lumina AutoCare not only repaired broken processes, but also repaired broken relationships with employees, customers, and its own identity. In the end, the most valuable service any organization can offer isn't just a product, it's respect, honesty, and a commitment to doing what's right, even when it's hard. That's the kind of legacy that lasts far longer than any sales target.